Hi everybody, Alexander Diaz, Corvallis Acupuncture and Functional Medicine. Today going to talk about diet. It's very important to eat a healthy diet. It's very important to eat abundantly and to yield to yourself the deeply nourishing, wholesome foods that you need so you can function optimally, so you can be a hero in this world. And to that end, I want to talk about first the foods that cause us harm. So for many people, foods that come from wheat, from soy, from corn, these can actually really damage us. And a lot of these foods are also factory farmed, so they're created in an unhealthy environment. There's a lot of maladies that can come out of it. Most people are gluten sensitive. They may not register as celiac, but they may have bad reactions to gluten. Depending on how compromised the wellness of your gut is, you may be able to tolerate these foods reasonably well, or they may really set you back. And so I recommend a diet that is free of these foods. I also recommend that you drop any industrialized oils like soy oil, canola oil, rapeseed oil, any vegetable oils. These are commonly used in most restaurants and fast food places because they're cheap, but they are hugely carcinogenic, and the sooner you can do an oil change and replace those oils, it's for the best. The other thing is meats that are raised in an unhealthy setting or are given hormones, are given antibiotics themselves. That actually gets into our blood, and the same goes for milk products. So it's really important to eat organic food and eat local food. And so I would say removing packaged foods that have sweeteners and preservatives, doing a real pantry clean out, and I have a resource at the end of the video for a professional that I use for pantry clean out and food prep. This can be hugely supportive because realistically, if you eat these junk foods, it really damages your health. And we're kind of on our own in terms of creating wellness. You know, we can't just depend on healthcare practitioners to get us out of trouble. We have to cultivate wellness through a nourishing diet. Okay? And so there's also a lot of nutrients that are super scarce because the soils have been so hurt through bad agricultural practices and through overuse. And so we need to try to get these nutrients. So I'm going to talk about the foods that help you obtain those. So I want to talk about complex carbohydrates in human evolution. So we think of the primitive or the Paleolithic person as obtaining their calories from, killing a mastodon or whatever. But really, the studies show that about 35% of human calories were obtained from like hunted and trapped meat animals, and 65% was gathered, mainly by women, out of things like starchy tubers and root vegetables, of which Paleolithic humans had a huge variety. Like they ate more than 35 types of plants that gave them the nutrient-dense food that they needed. So it's really important to get complex carbohydrates. I talk a lot about that in the gut microbiome video. My personal carbs of choice is plantain and yucca. And there's a lot of people who have a Mexican or a Latin American food store or whose supermarket carries these foods. But the trick is that you prepare them by boiling them, and then you cool them in your fridge, and then you heat up a portion of it as needed. And this lines up these resistant starches that help your bacterium to grow. So complex carbs are huge, and most of the healthiest people that you witness worldwide are eating a local variety of complex carbs. That could include millet, quinoa. There's a lot of types of rice that are actually very healthy, but my favorite ones are these sort of cassava, yucca, plantains, partly because I'm Cuban bee. So I want to talk also about the importance of meat and fat. So many of us have heard that a low-fat diet is best, but realistically, brain and nerve function and joint and tissue wellness really thrive with high fat in the diet, and that could include animal fat. So if the animal is raised well with love and they're fed healthy foods, eating their fats is like a superfood. So I go for the fattiest cuts of meat that I can get, and I really just try to eat it all the gristle and everything. And having enough meat in the diet, particularly if your ancestors were meat eaters, it's huge. It's hugely important. The trick is to not eat just so much flesh meat, but to eat other types of meat. And I'm going to get into that in a moment. So green vegetables and vegetable matter and fiber is also really crucial. Like we do derive some vitamins and minerals from these vegetables, but what we really are looking for is like fiber to go and scour our digestive tract and to give our bacterium something to grow on. So I personally try to eat, I call it a bushel of green vegetables each day. So kale, collard greens, spinach, and also to get into the more interesting like Asian varieties, tatsoi, bok choy, some of the Filipino vegetables, if you can obtain those in California, they're great. Um, and so it's really important to go for vital foods, meaning that they're recently harvested and hopefully locally harvested, because local foods actually carry the resonance of your local area and they give you sort of a medicinal nourishment to deal with the harmful pathogens and the other allergens in your local area. And to prepare these in a healthy way, I really like steaming and boiling, and then I like stir frying in a healthy oil. So a sesame oil is real good, or a beef fat, a beef tallow is good to fry in, or a healthy butter is good to fry in. Two superfoods that are really important is one is bone broth. Now you can buy bone broth in the store, but it's missing a lot of the good stuff. When I'm talking about bone broth, I want you to get the full-on bones at a butcher or from a farmer's market and put those in a crock pot. If you can add salt, a little bit of vinegar, and make a real bone broth and eat everything. Eat the fat on top and suck out the marrow that's in the bones. It's exceptional for your health and wellness, and quite frankly, we cannot rebuild joint tissue and also endothelial tissue, such as the bladder and the stomach and even the heart. We can't rebuild these cells without this vital component that most of us are missing from our foods. And then pate is amazing. So I usually get liver, and I get heart, and I get some bacon and onions. If you have some cooking wine, it goes really nicely in that. You want to get some vinegar in there, and you fry that all up, and then you put it into a Cuisinart or a food processor, and you get it real nice, and you eat it with some crackers. And when you add the bacon, you can cook it in butter. The pate is quite palatable, and at first your body's like, hey, what is this? But then you feel like you're wanting more, and your workout the day after you eat the pate is exceptional, so you get hooked right away on eating pate. But I don't recommend the foie gras, because they're really abusing these geese and ducks. So you make your own pate from animals that lived outside and had a good life, okay? I also recommend dietarily going very low glycemic. This is hard, a lot of foods have sweets in it, a lot of foods spike your blood sugar, but that just kills us. Like spiking and dropping blood sugar, which you can hear about more in my blood sugar video, is just so damaging. So eating low glycemic, maybe if you're going to have fruit, just have berries. But for the most part, really not too much sweet stuff, not even much fruit is the way I recommend for people. Because fruits, I worked in an organic fruit farm, and they add so much junk to it to make them extra sweet, so they can sell them. Fruit is not even meant to be that sweet in the wilderness, yeah? And so another thing is eating on time. So it's not just about what you eat, it's about when you eat. And so you gotta eat before you're very hungry. If you eat when you're very hungry, you'll be kind of chomping it down and maybe even making worse choices. So the trick is to time your meals. If you can get up, like I get up, 5:30, and I train, say, 6:15 to 7:15. So I want to get a meal in at like the latest 7:45. If I'm waiting till 8, 9, 10 o'clock, my body's not doing well and my digestive fire just drops. And so what I want to do is get that meal in right on time. You get your lunch 11:30 or 12, and then you get your dinner around 5 o'clock. And then you can watch Matlock or whatever, take a walk, but you can actually have a fast from the time that you finish eating, say 5:30, until the next morning at 7, say 7:45, like I'm saying, and actually that's an intermittent fast that you can run with. It's a very popular concept, but the trick is you want to have an intermittent fast, but you also want to eat abundantly when you need to, which is during your energized hours, okay? And uh, spending money, like really spend your money on food, go to the store and really shell it out. If you have a cable plan and you're watching cable TV, just cut off the cable plan and spend that money per month on food. If you're buying soda, if you're buying Starbucks coffee, if you're buying drinks, cut that out and just spend it on food. Anywhere that you can cut $5, $10 from your monthly budget, just put it right into the food. People for all of history spent way more of their earnings on food than we do right now. And that's part of why we have some health problems. And to get real organic food and to pay these farmers what they deserve, it costs. It does cost. But it doesn't cost very much more than a fancy meal at McDonald's per meal. And I've calculated that over a long time of not having too much money. And also, food is like a spiritual gift, so prepare food for others and nourish others. It's one of the greatest things we can do culturally to bring each other warmth and wellness and to just show somebody that you care. So if you want any more food advice, the nutrition specialist is Melissa Solar Green, and you can see her information in the link below. And her email is solarqueenbee, like a buzzing bee, @gmail.com. So I recommend you contact her for pantry clean out and meal prep. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.